Hey guys, welcome to another movie review. Today I'm going to be talking about the John Carpenter film Big Trouble in Little China. I know a lot of people really like this movie. Unfortunately, this review really isn't for you because I'm basically going to say a lot of things that are pretty much the unpopular opinion for this movie. Don't get me wrong, I love John Carpenter, I love Kurt Russell, I love a lot of things about this movie. But let's dive into some things that I liked and really didn't like about Big Trouble in Little China. But first, let's start as usual with any movie review with a synopsis. So overall, guys, with Big Trouble in Little China, this film is about an American truck driver who has this sidekick at his side who they like to go like gambling and playing cards on the streets of Chinatown and so forth. One day, this friend of his basically has to pick up somebody at the airport that has green eyes and she's Asian, and I guess that's very rare. And so basically, they get into this situation where this ancient Chinese emperor person wants this girl for this ritual that he performs every once in a while to basically live a longer life. So Kurt Russell and the sidekick person that is along the ride for this adventure with him, they go to Chinatown. They track down this emperor guy, and they're basically trying to stop him before he takes this youth out of this woman to live a longer life. He has to marry them or something like that. While they're there, they have a woman played by Kim Cattrall, who's kind of this journalist slash resident of Chinatown that is kind of aware of all this. And so she gets stuck within the mix as well. And so the Emperor has plans for her as well. So basically, throughout the course of this film, they have to figure out how they can stop this Emperor, how they can get this girl back to this friend of his, that Kurt Russell's friend of his that wants to have a relationship with her and so forth. And they have to work their way through Chinatown and all these little trap doors and so forth within Chinatown to basically go and get this girl back. So it's basically a journey of getting all these women back, and so that Kurt Russell can get his truck back that apparently the Emperor took earlier on in the movie. And that's really the synopsis of this movie. So overall, guys, I really wasn't a big fan of this movie. Like I said, I love John Carpenter, I love Kurt Russell. There's things about this movie that I liked, but overall, I don't really think it's the film that people are telling you it is. I know a lot of people just absolutely love this movie. Some people might even say it's their favorite John Carpenter movie. I really can't get on board with that. I really did not think it was that great of a movie. And let's get into those positives and negatives of why I think that is. For my positives of Big Trouble in Little China, I thought overall the set design was pretty good. Whenever they're in this trapdoor area of dungeons and mazes and so forth, trying to get this girl back, it did look pretty good. Obviously there's a lot of possibility of martial arts and action sequences that you can work with these so far these environments that are displayed on throughout the course of this movie. But overall, I liked the set design. It's only an element of filmmaking, really. It's really not like the aspect of the movie that everybody has to look for. But overall, I liked the set design of this movie. I also was able to understand the villain motivations pretty well. He needed this girl to basically live a longer life, and he can't do that with no girl at all within this place that he's at. So I was able to understand like the villain motivations and why he needed this, and why Kurt Russell and all these other characters got involved with trying to save this girl. So I was able to understand the villain's motivations. Unfortunately, I was able to understand his motivations better than the hero's motivations, but I was able to understand them. And for me personally, I thought that part was fine. Like it made sense for the film that they were going for in that regard. And I overall thought that Kurt Russell's performance was very good in this movie. Very much, knows when to put in the one-liners and when to be a part of the action sequences, and when he knows that he's not as skilled as some of these other martial artists that he faces in this movie and so forth. So I thought his performance was fine. Obviously, I thought the script could have done a better job of giving him more interesting material to work with, but overall, his overall performance with what he was given, I thought was good. Now, for my negatives of Big Trouble in Little China, this is where I'm probably going to disappoint a lot of people. Um, I really thought there was almost no character development in this movie. There was no backstory behind Kurt Russell's character, no backstory behind his friend. No, really, we learned a little bit about Kim Cattrall. We learned a little bit about the girl that they're trying to rescue, but we really don't get to know anybody. We really don't get to know why they're doing what they're doing. We don't get to know, why they're there. Why Kurt Russell is this truck driver. Who does he? Who is he even a truck driver even for? Like, what does he do? What does he deliver? What does he work for a restaurant? What does he do? There's things like that that absolutely make no sense at all that I really wish that this film could have dived into more details with. I also thought the action scenes were pretty boring in this movie. I really didn't feel invested in them. I just, I understand they're trying to probably go for a camp value kind of movie, but overall the action scenes just felt very boring. I didn't feel very invested in them. I also thought there was a lot of very forgettable one-liners in this film. Like I said, Kurt Russell really does work with what he can here. His performance really didn't hurt this movie. It did help it a lot, but unfortunately, a lot of his one-liners and a lot of the additional characters in this movie, when they have one-liners, are really forgettable in this movie. I really didn't. There's really not a one-liner that really stood out to me in this movie. I also thought the story resolution was way too easy in this movie. I thought these characters were able to get through the situation without any problem at all. In one moment they're in a sewer, and then the next moment they're up on this pipe and they're back fine again. And there's the villain was taken down very easily. And there's all this discussion this week about him being immortal and him being unstoppable and so forth. So I thought everything felt a little too easy. It felt like these characters had no problem at all taking down whatever they needed to get to their goals by the end of the movie, and as a result, nothing really feels at stake. I also thought, and I understand this is made in 1986, but to today's standards and compared to the other John Carpenter films, specifically like They Live and The Thing and so forth, a lot of the special effects seem really outdated in this movie. I saw The Thing probably 1 or 2 years ago, and so forth. So I've seen a lot of these older John Carpenter films that are still very good and still very relevant. I think specifically with this movie, though, I think the special effects are very outdated. They really don't live up to they don't really live on very well. So I just really couldn't get into the special effects in this movie either. And my last comment, it's kind of, depending on what you go into this movie with. I personally thought this film was a little too campy for its own good. I really think the tone that they used here seemed to suggest a more serious action comedy kind of movie. And I really think this film would have benefited from a lighter tone. If they really want to go the camp route, if they really want to aim for that Adam West Batman kind of feel, I think they should have lightened the tone more, because I really feel like this film had the same kind of tone as They Live or The Thing, or even In the Mouth of Madness and so forth. I really think they should have lightened the tone here, because the film that they were going for, it felt a little too dark for all these campy, trying to be funny kind of moments, and unfortunately they really don't work very well. So I'm going to give Big Trouble in Little China a 5 out of 10. I really didn't like this movie. I know some people might really love it. I know some people might even say it's one of their favorite movies. I really, I'm kind of not too shocked why I waited as long as I did to see this one, just because I really wasn't invested in it. I can't recommend this one. I personally think something like, The Thing or They Live, everything that those films did alone, I thought was much better than this film. Though I understand this was probably more aimed to be more comedic, I really couldn't get invested in this movie. So 5 out of 10, really not a great movie. Can't recommend it.